Lesson number 4, Creation Seminar. We're going to talk about the flood, whereby the world within was, being overflowed with water, perished. The Bible has the evidence to prove and show what it says is what happened. Chapter number 8 is where the flood waters recede. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, chapter 8. Because it says in verse 1, God remembered Noah and every living thing on the ark, the cattle that was with him in the ark. God made a wind to pass over the earth and the waters assuaged. This earth was flooded or this earth was not flooded. A little bit of water over a lot of time, or was it a lot of water over a little bit of time? Only one would actually show the damage and the effects that we actually see. This honest evolutionist taking an honest appraisal of what he sees, and he writes about it. And his conclusions, his buddies say, no, that's what the Bible says. We don't talk that way. Will a garden hose with a little trickle of water cut that? Or would a big 5-gallon bucket cut that? The evidence doesn't fit what they believe it ought to show. And it's absolutely amazing how that happens all the time. The Grand Canyon, when you stop and just look at this, I mean, this is an amazing washout. And notice just the flat nature of the cut off top of the thing and then the washout of that. We'll get to that, how the Bible describes that happened. That it was a cataclysmic, catastrophic event that took place. This thing washed out in a hurry. A lot of water over a little bit of time would do that kind of damage. But anyway, thou coverest it with the deep, Psalm 104, verse 6. Psalm 104 is kind of an overview of everything. The thing washed out at the time when the mountains arose, the valley sunk down, and now the river flows through. Sure, it moves some debris along, but it didn't cut the whole thing the way they say. The San Juan River flows 6 miles while advancing less than 2 miles. As it travels through, they say wind, and they say 170 million years ago, more wind and more water formed these goblins. God, in His Word, says He made a wind to pass over all these places. They say there was a shallow sea at one time. There is nothing in a shallow sea, there's nothing in a gradual uplift, there's nothing in a gradual erosion or anything that can put the Devil's Tower there. More than 200 million years of geologic record between the Miocene and the Triassic Age are not present in the rock formations of Palo Duro Canyon. Well, now, I would have a question for these people. Where was all of North Texas while this supposed 200 million years of time is laying out this supposed 200 million years of dirt? The Bible, though, says God formed the mountains. Think this through logically. If the Bible's true, now again, written thousands of years ago, this is not we look at something and then we go make up a story that fits it. It's written way long ago, before any of this stuff was discovered. Wow, you mean I could actually go to a museum? Because you guys have fun when you go to museums. We do. We have fun when we go to these places, but sometimes people go to these things and they get frustrated because the way they present everything, nobody knew it was there. And all of a sudden they found the thing. There are all kinds of, no doubt, things out there. Call it Atlantis, call it Poseidon, call it whatever you want to call it whatever. But evidence, people used to live out there, which means then it was dry land. And we know when that dry land was. In the original creation, it would have been dry. After the flood, it probably would have been dry. When the ice is holding it, the water, by definition, solid, it's not liquid out there. But just because you have a low spot doesn't mean the two edges used to be with each other. I've used to do this kind of experiment. It's a good homeschool experiment. Do this with your kids. You'll enjoy it. But just get an area where you have some dirt or sand or whatever, and just kind of rake it out smooth so you can see what you're doing. And just get on your knees or down or whatever, and just take your arm and sort of cock your hand over and just blast it down in there and then come back out. When you come out of there, you're going to notice you create a low spot. Why is the ice melting? And is global warming, climate change true? It is getting warmer. There's no question about that. But folks, because there's less ice. Or is it less ice because it's warmer temperature? We're at a Glacier Bay in Alaska. It's a beautiful place, but glaciers, I mean, they're fascinating things because it's a massive amount of ice that moves and you can watch it. And it's really cool because we're watching it calving, you know, when big chunks break off. Ice is moving, melting, thinning, thawing. You can actually see where the alpine layer used to be, where the level used to be for tree line and how it's grown up. You can see the difference in the vegetation, the growth, and that it is new growth and all that kind of thing. We are losing ice, that is true. All we have to do is cut it in half. When we cut it in half, we've now exposed huge amounts of it to the atmospheric conditions that cause it to melt away that didn't used to be exposed. If you want to melt it faster, whack those in half. And so when these cracks happen, these things bust off or drop off or whatever, the melting and moving and thawing and everything starts to pick up because massive amounts now of the ice item, whatever it is, whether it's a block or a crack or each side or whatever, is exposed to the atmospheric conditions that are going to cause it to melt away. They're saying this thing is a transition between fish and amphibians. But the bones in the front fins are different than a fish or an amphibian, or both of them. But how did the dinosaur cross the ocean? Well, we can learn more about that in the dinosaur lesson we have, but taking wing. There was no moment when a dinosaur became a bird, no big bang when a T-Rex turned into a chicken. It was a journey. Can we destroy this earth? Nah. You know what? The Bible says God put this place here, and it says by Him all things consist. They're showing more and more and more with every topic that what they've been teaching all this time as a fact, and we're the problem, is not true after all. Like Stephen Hawking says, science makes God unnecessary. God always leaves evidence. He left His fingerprints all over everything. He leaves evidence for the creation. He leaves evidence for the flood. He leaves evidence for how everything reproduces after its own kind. He leaves evidence for His salvation. He leaves evidence for everything. Everything He does, there's evidence to show that it means exactly what it says. And so we just need to stand on it and trust it just the way it is.